So let's go through the list of teams that made the playoffs last year that are most likely going to miss the playoffs this year, okay? First team, we talked about them earlier today, AFC East, the Miami Dolphins. They will not return to the postseason because the AFC, as you guys know, is loaded with talent, and they are not the best team in the AFC East. The New York Jets are. They've never won a playoff game. Their defense has been riddled both with injuries and guys leaving via free agency. As you take a look at the Dolphins' schedule, and the real concern for the Dolphins is what happens after Week 12, when you have a playoff team in the Packers, the best team in the division in the Jets, arguably the best team in the AFC next to the Jets, the Houston Texans, the best NFC team, the Niners, a playoff team in the Browns, and then you end it again against the New York Jets. The argument will be made that the Miami Dolphins end the season on a 6-game losing streak and do not make the playoffs, Blacks.
I mean, as I look at the schedule through the first 8 weeks, those are all very winnable games.
Absolutely right. Yep.
I mean, if they can get off to a great start, which I think they will. You know what? I'm gonna not go with you on this one and say that the Miami Dolphins will make the playoffs because I believe that they are the second best team if they don't win the division in the AFC. So I do believe that they do get in the playoffs as a wild card.
Yeah, and your points are good too. And I took a long, hard look at that schedule. An argument could be made that the Dolphins are 7-0. Like that's on the table, right? But it's the last 6 games of the season that they may not win. Like that is murderer's row for them. Having to play the Jets twice in 5 weeks, having the Texans, San Francisco. That's going to be very tough.
I mean, if you're a head coach, you don't want to take the approach of going to your team and say, listen, we have to get off to a great start because the last, 5 or 6 weeks are
yeah, you probably don't tell the guys that,
right?
Yeah,
you don't tell the guys that.
Yeah.
But he's thinking that.
Listen, everybody looking at the schedule saying the same thing. We got to get off to a great start.
Yeah. All right, the second team that made the playoffs last year with a lot of smoke and mirrors that is likely to miss the playoffs, and it pains me because I love you people. You know I love you. I lived there for a year. I had season tickets in the dog pound. Hanford Dixon was one of my best friends in Cleveland. He was one of the great cornerbacks in Cleveland Brown history. But I do not know what Deshaun Watson is. I know they were 4-1 with him at quarterback before he went down to that Indy game, which they also won to go 5-1. I respect the fact that they have a money good defense again this year, one of the top 3 or 4 defenses in football. But they play in a badass division. And until somebody shows me tape of Deshaun Watson playing high-level quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, he has never had, since he got traded to Cleveland, a 300-yard passing day. I'm not sure what the Browns are.
I mean, the Cleveland Browns are the wild card, mainly because everything, just like you said, the last 5 games for them is tough as you look at the schedule. And for Deshaun Watson, everybody wants him to get back to the form, the quarterback that he was in the Houston Texans.
Right.
Listen, those days are long gone. We want to see him go out and have that first 300-yard game that he hasn't had and win a playoff game. So for Cleveland Browns, it's all about offense and how successful Deshaun Watson can be.
Yeah, all right, so the next team is an NFC team. This team was a surprise team, frankly, to go to a playoffs last year and damn near won a playoff game on the road. I think it was a 1-point game against the Detroit Lions. But I think the Rams take a little step backwards this year. And I acknowledge Matthew Stafford had a really good year last year and largely stayed healthy for them last year. And we all love Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. I've got some questions about their running attack this year. Let's take a look at their schedule. Out of the gate, tough schedule with the Lions, the Niners, the rejuvenated Bears, and, of course, the Green Bay Packers. And then, of course, you look in the middle of that schedule for them, they could build up a bunch of wins.
Right.
The Rams can. But they're still playing second fiddle out west to the San Francisco 49ers, and they're not as good as San Francisco. So best case scenario for them would be a wild card spot. But I think it's a step back, and I'd actually be surprised if Matthew Stafford plays the whole year.
You know what? We don't agree much, but I have to agree with you on this one. Listen, Aaron Donald, obviously one of the arguably the greatest, defensive lineman of all time. He's retired. He's moved on. And offensively, Cooper Kupp's getting a year older. Stafford's getting a year older. So offensively for this team, Cam Akers running the football. You just don't see them, getting through this division, especially with the 49ers. They don't make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and I know Kyron Williams is dealing with some injuries as well coming into the year. I did have a great year last year, but I'm not sold on the Rams making a run just yet again. And that brings me to one more team, and this is a team a lot of people fell in love with also in the NFC last year, with a quarterback on a make-it-or-break-it season and a head coach who was on the hot seat to start the year. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, remember, with all the good stuff Tampa did, winning a playoff game and the rejuvenated career of Baker Mayfield, that was a 9-8 football team.
Right.
They weren't an 11 or 12 win team. They won 9 games last year, and I do believe the Falcons will be better and the Saints will be better. Their schedule's a little hit and miss, a little up and down, as you take a look at it right there. But I am not sold that Tampa just rolls the ball out and gets it back to the playoffs.
I mean, you just can't really trust Baker enough to say that he's going to lead this team and win the division and get back to the playoffs. They're also the wild card in this division also. They got into the playoffs 9-8, just like you said. The Falcons are going to be better, obviously, with the addition of Kirk Cousins.
Yep.
But I don't see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers making the playoffs this year.
No, and I don't think they're a 10-win team again. No. And I think you got to win 10 this year to win that division. 9-8 does not give you the division. And I know when you take a look at the back end of their schedule, it looks like they've got a bunch of wins there. Carolina twice. They end with New Orleans. But look at the middle. You've got the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Niners going into that bye week. Those are 3 losses for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
It's interesting when you look at the NFC because you got the 4 division winners, then you've got those 3 wild card spots. And I just can't see a wild card spot coming out of the West or the South. So maybe the Cowboys or the Eagles in the East. And obviously the NFC North has 3 strong teams that will be competing for a wild card spot themselves. So I don't see it coming out of the South or the West.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. Hey there, thank you so much for watching The Carton Show. You can subscribe right here to get all the latest bits and segments from the show. And by the way, while you're at it, we have a lot of great shows on FS1, so check them out too.